how German is the royal family? King Charles III is visiting Germany on his first foreign trip since becoming the monarch. When Queen Anne died over 300 years ago in 1714, George Louis Hanover, or George I, was proclaimed King of England. And he only spoke German, and he had very bad manners. He didn't even set foot into England until 2 months after he was proclaimed the king. His son was George II. George II loved the arts and was responsible for bringing the British national anthem, God Save the King, into the nation. His grandson was George III, and he was the first in line of German kings to be born in England, with English being his main and first language. He did marry German Princess Charlotte of Mecklenburg-Strelitz, and then they had 15 kids. The thing is that none of their kids had an appropriate heir until Queen Victoria. So then Queen Victoria came into the picture because she was the niece and the heir to the throne. She was German. She married German Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, and the English had no idea why the queen would choose a German to be her husband. One thing that Prince Albert was responsible for was for bringing in Christmas trees to the nation. He also established the first World's Fair in London in 1851. Queen Victoria and Albert had 9 children. It was Queen Victoria that was known as the grandmother of Europe, and she made sure that her children married into other European royal courts. The descendants of those royal marriages include Queen Margareta of Denmark, Kings Harald V of Norway, and Carl 16th Gustav of Sweden. And that goes, of course, all the way down to Queen Elizabeth II and King Charles III. Queen Victoria died in 1901, and then her oldest son, Edward VII, was the first English king from the German dynasty of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. To make the name easier to pronounce, the house was renamed Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. In 1910, his son, George V, became king, and then he did marry Maria von Teck, who also was German. That would be King Charles's great-grandmother, and she became known as Queen Mary. George V's reign coincided with World War I, which was waged against his cousin, who was the Emperor William II. People in England started to be very aggressive and very angry toward the Germans. In 1917, George V decided to change the German family name to Windsor because it sounded more British. George also renounced all German titles, as did his cousin Ludwig von Battenberg, who renamed his family Mountbatten. Queen Elizabeth's husband, Prince Philip, came from this particular family. George's son, Edward VIII, became king in 1936. Less than a year later, he abdicated because of his relationship with Wallis Simpson, who was an American divorcee. His brother Albert, who we know as George VI, ascended into the throne. This was the time when the Nazis and Hitler had a firm grasp on Germany, and the world was really watching on pins and needles to see what Germany was going to do. Edward and Albert's mother, Queen Mary, who we know was German, insisted that her sons not forget their German roots because they had plenty of relatives that were still in Hitler's army. Edward openly sympathized with the Nazis, even getting his picture taken in 1937 with Hitler. There was a picture that showed Edward and his sister-in-law practicing the Hitler salute with the 2 little girls, Princess Margaret and the future Queen Elizabeth II. These clips were filmed by the current king, George VI. So where are we now? How German is King Charles III? The Queen Mother, Queen Elizabeth II's mom, and King Charles III's grandmother was only partially German. His dad was fully German, which gives Charles about a 75% or more German bloodline. Prince Philip, Charles's dad, in 1947 became a British citizen, and shortly before his marriage to Elizabeth, had to relinquish even his German title of nobility, and he himself called himself Mountbatten. So most of King Charles III's bloodline is German. Charles marries Diana Spencer. They have 2 sons, William and Harry. William's wife, Catherine, has no German ancestry at all, and Meghan's Irish roots are said to have some German ancestry. Though the family is very German and King Charles is visiting Germany as his first international state trip, it looks like the German ancestry is starting to be diluted a bit to being more of a balance between the UK and the German ancestry. So I'm Deanna from Hot for History. Please make sure to subscribe and like my videos for more quirky history videos and royal family news.